To begin with, what is the problem? That is there, yes.
Oh, there's the problem.
To remind ourselves, Pastors Tom and Ted fear that America is facing a crisis, that our very existence as a democratic society is threatened. As children of light, Tom and Ted lift up the high-minded values of justice, freedom, equality for everyone, care for the poor, and peace on earth. Will these values save America? Will they save America? Tom and Ted, you are naive, says Reinhold Niebuhr. You're not realistic. You don't take original sin seriously enough. The course of history is not determined by high-minded values and nice people who lift up wholesome goals. No, the course of events is determined by power. It's power against power. Get real, you guys. Come on, Ted. We need to get real. So.
I thought that was Stephen Miller who said that.
It was.
He did.
It was precisely Stephen Miller.
He inspired it, I suspect. Anyways, so we get to the children of light and the children of darkness, session 3, chapter 2. And please know that in these slides that I'll go through and the questions that I'll ask, some of the points come from the podcast that I mentioned last week called Love Thy Neighbor. It helps me to listen to these things, in addition to reading through them. They also bring up some slightly different, or I should say they emphasize some slightly different things. So in these, I'll refer to the podcast or the hosts or things of that sort. So today, we're looking at chapter 2. We're looking at Ted's Children of Light, Niebuhr's Children of Light 2. And setting the stage. So, and this is kind of the summary section, and we'll spend maybe 15 minutes or so on this, and then we'll go on to discussion. Feel free to ask questions of myself or Ted for some clarification. Some of the questions that we'll talk about are questions of clarification, so we'll get into those. And then others are more application kind of questions, applying what we've heard and talked about or presented and read to what's going on today. So let's see, setting the stage. The self is relational yet transcends every group. Idealists shrank government to, as Niebuhr says, traffic cops. Pessimists, Hobbes and Luther, Niebuhr mentions, and I'm going to ask you about why he includes Luther in there. The pessimists, they focus on only repression. No check on rulers is the problem with that. So for the pessimists, government is only there to hold people down, to take control of things. Now, today's edge, and this comes from the podcast, they focus on, which Niebuhr does a little bit, on oligarchy and this sliding from anarchy into tyranny. Taking sin seriously makes democracy harder and more necessary. And let's move forward. Okay, this is kind of summarizing a bit and adding some things into your 4 steps. Step 1, more moral than any group, we can imagine justice and judge our nation by it. Groups can only perpetuate themselves. Conscience holds purer ideals than any community. Yeah, we stay rooted in our own community and history, and this is something that comes out in the podcast.
Just to clarify, you're saying that the individual is more moral than any group.
The individual has a greater capacity to
Capacity.
be moral, a greater capacity than any group can do.
Yeah, because the groups can degenerate into the mob.
Okay, go ahead.
The one about we were shrinking government. And I thought the liberals were always accused of, increasing government and bureaucracy.
Yeah, I think this comes out in, I'd have to look at the reference in Niebuhr chapter 2.
Idealists were accused of increasing government.
In contemporary discussion, that's true. But classically, liberals want individuals to express themselves. But you're right that for the last 100 years, the liberal side of American politics is to have a large government that guarantees justice for the whole of society. Franklin Delano Roosevelt would be a good example of that.
Yeah, the comment about idealists shrank government to a traffic cop, it goes back a step. It's not our modern politics. It's the development of the individual, John Stuart Mill, and the individualism, that kind of almost libertarian. And so, as opposed to what was before that, when you had governments and religious governments, dictating all sorts of things. It's like, no, the individual. So it's not our modern Democratic Party that's shrinking government, but it's the libertarian individualism ideas.
Just one more clarification. The pessimists, Hobbes and Luther, they're not, Luther's not a child of darkness. He just has too pessimistic a view of humankind. Would you agree with that?
Yes, he's not a child of darkness,
Right.
That's for sure. Democracy had not been born.
Exactly.
The only thing Luther knew were kings and princes and bishops and the wealthy class and the peasants.
Right.
They didn't even have industrialization then. So he couldn't conceive of the issues that we have. So if you look at what Luther says and what the Lutheran confessions say, the task of government is to prevent crime. It's a police force. It's negative. We want to reduce the amount of evil. So what we get 2 or 3 centuries after Luther is, oh no, the government can lift up a high ideal of what a better society is. That didn't dawn on Luther. It's very important to us, but it wasn't on Luther's mind.
Now, I don't know, you had another question.
Well, and he did kind of live through like a peasants' revolt,
That's what I was going to bring up too,
that he
yeah.
saw as just anarchy and,
He feared anarchy. If you've ever been to Germany, Germans, alles muss in Ordnung sein. Let's keep everything in
Right.
order.
Right.
So anarchy is like, whoa. Yeah. We could tolerate more anarchy than Germans can.
Yeah, evidently, what I was reading into this was the peasant revolt as well, and how early in that revolt he put a statement out, a pamphlet or whatever, supporting the peasants. But when the peasants turned violent, he put out another word saying, the princes need to take control of this situation and put these peasants down. And I think what I read was saying this is what this and World War II and the kind of what went on in Germany as he saw it led him to put put this on Luther.
Yeah. Between
Rightly or wrongly.
between those two, we had Reinhold Niebuhr identifying with the workers at Ford Motor Company over against management. And in this period, the Marxists, the communists, were very strong in organizing labor movements. And Niebuhr identified with the workers over against management. But as he had experience with workers, he discovered they were just as sinful as the managers were. And so he came up with this aphorism: the justness of a person's cause does not accrue to the justness of the person. So that's what Luther is experiencing here. The peasants have a just cause. That doesn't mean they're just people. And so that's kind of what Niebuhr discovered in the labor movement, and why he turned against Marxism, because Marxism failed to recognize that. And so that's already in the late 1920s and early 1930s that he comes up with that. So I don't know if that contributes to anything, but
Oh, sure, sure. I mean, it helps understand the context out of which he's written those words.
That statement seems like it could be, I don't know if it's useful, but it could be applied to the, for example, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Just because you have a just cause doesn't mean you're a just people.
That's right.
You can apply that to either side, depending on which you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's move forward. Sinners and culture. I don't know if rewards is the right word. Certainly facilitates it relating to sin. Self-sufficiency is a primal sin. Two forms: domination and isolation. In terms of isolation, we have to remember we didn't birth ourselves. They quote, this is out of the podcast, they quote Cornel West, who says that evidently. And then a term you use, Ted, the habile, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Habile, yeah.
Habile trick, lure the selfish toward the common good, which I think you relate to the Pope.
I do.
And to the Pope's encyclical on AI that came out last week, or I think last week or the week before.
Last Monday.
So, yeah. And then, let's see, justice not real, or real but not actual. Justice is real but not actual, symbolized by the kingdom of God, never fully arrived in our lives. Vitalities, there's that word I think you mentioned or you talked about a couple sessions ago. Niebuhr mentions fancy coats. We don't want just coats to keep us warm. We want fancy coats to keep us warm. We don't want just an automobile to get us from A to B. We want something that expresses who we are. If you kill destructive freedom, you also kill creative freedom. There's that vitality's tension between creativity and destruction. Some could say that our current president is very vital in his destructiveness.
Yeah, true.
Very creative in his destructiveness. And the Christian realist balance keeps its hope. In other words, to balance these things. And then, let's see, judge the nation by justice. In step 4, I think you call on all of us to judge, to continually judge our nation by this standard of justice, this which can never be realized. There's also the talk about about sacred principles and our Constitution. They are principles yet always open to amendment. And you call out the utopian tyrant as a phony. We must obey God rather than man. And in the podcast, they talk about the Constitution being always open to amendment, and that sometimes, something good can come out of a mistake from the past, namely slavery and the 13th, 14th amendments. And then, let's see, the conclusion, serpent and dove. Ted, you end with a moment of, you feel like an unrepentant child of light.
Yes.
And you quote some lyrics that we sang that Carolyn Winfrey Gillette wrote. Lord, your loving knows no bounds. You have conquered death for all. May we hear beyond our towns to our distant neighbors call. Spirit, may our love increase. May we reach to all the earth till your whole world lives in peace, till we see each person's worth. Beautiful. Idealistic.
We sang that with gusto.
We did. As individuals. Okay. Some discussion. And like I said, clarifying the readings. And there's a whole bunch here. Some may be more relevant than others or may attract our interest more than others. Ted says we cannot be ourselves in isolation, following Niebuhr, yet we can transcend every group we belong to. How does Niebuhr hold these two truths together? Recall Ted's spaghetti sauce and sweater image. Anyone? Does that spark anything?
How is it that we cannot be ourselves in isolation? Could you expand on that a little bit?
Well, there's a certain logic that we define ourselves in interaction with others that makes us distinguished, that distinguishes us from one another. But at the same time, we depend upon those relationships so that our identity is always one in relationship. You don't have a kind of isolated eternal identity, it's an interactive identity.
Yeah.
Family life would be a great illustration as young children are forming their identity. You can almost watch all the transactions they make as they are self-defining over time. So let me ask what's on your mind when you pose that question. Is this what you experience, or is this not what you experience?
I feel now that I'm older and
You're
I'm
not
not
older, yeah.
involved in a family life every day.
Right.
Yeah, he's there, but he
He's
does
there,
his
but-
own thing, and I do mine. And I find that now that I'm older, I can really blossom a lot more. I can pursue my own interests to an extent that I never could before. I'm reading voraciously all the time,
Right.
and I'm learning things constantly.
You are transcending your relationships.
Maybe that's it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about our experience as pastors. Catherine and I, when we were called to St. John's in Sacramento, there were 3 preachers, the senior pastor and Catherine and I, and we each influenced each other. There was no doubt about it. We were different preachers there than we were here, just the 2 of us. And in a sense, that's kind of how individuals are. We find ourselves amongst the community, and that changes given the changing communities. And we also grow in certain ways. You know, Catherine and I grew as preachers because of that community. And same with this community, preaching here.
One of the things that I find, though, today is because of this terrible political divide and the name calling and so forth, that within my extended family, where I have a lot of people in the Midwest who are very conservative, I haven't found any way to transcend that group. You know, we're just evil left coasters.
Oh,
and
my.
Democrats are devils. And there's no way that anybody sees any value in any of my perspective about things. And that's very sad.
That is sad.
No, I see that. I think that's one of the things we're experiencing as a society. And we're in a hole, and it's hard to dig ourselves out of this hole. And the hole seems to get worse and worse as the months go by. Well, could you just solve this problem for us? Because I've been worried about it.
No, I can't. But I was thinking that one of the things in reading the book is a lot of it was not easy to read, and you need a dictionary sitting next to you to get to some of the thoughts. But you get to the end. Niebuhr, for me, saves himself by the pessimism and all this going. Jesus Christ is the answer. When you get down to the very fundamental
Oh, yeah, right.
things, the only thing that can save a near rational society is a society that depends on the believing in Christ as our Lord and our Savior. And it transcends all the rest of the book, because that's what we all believe. And you say, oh, I was about to throw that book out the window.
Yeah, stick with it. I found the second time I read it, it was transformative.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good.
I think in your essay this week that the word that, I think it was your essay, love. And that is the only way that I have found to be able to transcend. And sometimes you have to just bite your tongue, shoo the flies away,
Yes.
and love. And it's really hard to just sit while they're,
Vituperating, yes.
yeah.
No, I think you're right. I need to say that in Karen's and my own situation in our neighborhood, where we have two people in the neighborhood that we love dearly, who are on exactly the opposite end of the political spectrum. And one of them is so nervous that she refuses to even talk about politics. So we don't. But when we're together, it's an atmosphere of love and acceptance. If politics comes up, people get rigid. So all I can say is that's the minimum.
That's
is
not
love somebody who thinks differently. That
that's
doesn't
not
solve
transcending.
everything, but you're not going to solve anything unless you do that.
But it's not transcending, right?
I'm sorry, why do you say it's not transcending?
It's just status quo.
It's not changing. It's true, it maintains the status quo, yeah.
But, don't we have relationships with people? There are all different kinds of relationships. And some, you don't talk politics.
Yes, but
Yeah,
what I found is my
I
relationships
wish we
with-
did, but we don't. We
Well,
just
but
agreed.
Those are neighbors. This is family. And I feel my heart
Oh,
is like
of course.
closed up.
Right, right.
As a result, I can't be myself with them.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
very
Yeah.
sad. And we're just like written off. We're the evil left coasters. We
That
talk
is
to
sad.
each other. You know, I try to be very open and loving toward them and
Right.
stay in contact, but nothing really transpires between us. It's just very superficial. Sad.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so unsatisfying. It really is, yeah.
The Pope from the Catholic Church is
Yeah.
really a wonderful person, in my opinion, because he's battling for an open society in which people can express themselves and not be dictated to. And that's something pretty new, the fact that we have a church that's over a billion people are now speaking out as a liberal, saying that no, this is wrong. We must do right, not. And it has enraged some Catholics that I have next door to me. We don't talk about religion because I would lose them as friends.
Well, let's move on to vitalities. Niebuhr makes much of human vitalities using the fancy coats image. How would you explain what is a vitality, what a vitality is, and why it matters for politics and economics? So who wants to tackle vitalities?
Capitalism.
Explain that. You're right, but
Yeah.
why?
Well, I mean, just our culture and capitalism, money and power, teaching us that to be consumers. Or now we can order anything and have it delivered to our door. Anything you want.
Between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Right.
So capitalism is an expression of our vitalities, right?
Yeah,
So-
that's one vitality.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, a vitality is some sort of dynamic engine of change, or a dynamic engine
Right.
that does things, of growth, something that does something. And it could
Creative
be,
energy?
religion could be a vitality, capitalism, a democracy, the electoral process, the Republican Party, or the MAGA Party, I should say. But anything that kind of galvanizes, that does things. AI could be, absolutely. And the reaction against AI. I mean, things that kind of propel things or move things forward or backwards.
So any other comments on vitalities? I mean, I certainly agree with what everyone said. Another way the podcast folks talked about it was, using the coat image as well, talking about cooking. We don't want to just eat food. We want to prepare it. We want to season it. We want to, there's a certain vitality to humanity where we don't just, eat the food. There's more to it than that. It seems to me like capitalism, particularly advertising industry, capitalizes and appeals to our vitalities in the sense that they're not just showing a product and the pluses and minuses of the product. They're selling us a lifestyle, a feeling that captures us because of who we are, the vitalities that we have. So please.
And politics. Why are people attracted to the MAGA movement? What does that mean? What are people's needs that they are attracted to that? The vitality of those people. And that seems like we don't understand the people that are creating issues in our culture, their vitalities.
Well, this is not exactly on vitalities, but I think one of the things we talked about, probably in your essay, because I've kind of given up on the book. It's just too much of a slog, quite frankly. But was the appeal to emotion. I have always contended that people are motivated, number one, by fear. And you can choose fear or faith. Fear and greed. They're afraid of losing whatever. And that affects, to me, what Niebuhr calls the self-ego, concern for self. What was the phrase that they used? Concern for self. But that's the whole point that he makes. But underlying that concern for yourself is the fear. And that's the number one motivator, I think, for MAGA.
Let me elaborate on that, because I think you have Niebuhr right when you say fear and greed. And that had a lot to do with his wrestling with Marxism. If you're a Marxist, the fear that motivates people is insecurity. And so Marx had this idea that, you know what, if industry produces enough wealth for everybody, so everybody has their needs met, we will live in peace. That'll solve, and Niebuhr says, no, it won't work because greed. Why? Because even if you have all your needs met, you have a motive for self-aggrandizement, for power, for domination. And so that was the naivete in Marxism that he was critical of. And one of the secrets of capitalism, you were talking about advertising, is that they'll tell you the product they want to sell you is based on fear. You need this to be healthy. But they're actually selling you something for greed, self-aggrandizement, for empowerment over above that. And so what we've discovered in capitalism is our thirst is unsatiable. There will never be an end to our thirst to have more and more. And we kind of need to understand that about human nature. So Niebuhr's words wouldn't be fear and greed, but they'd be something, the equivalent of that.
Right. I don't know if it was in the book or in the podcast, but they talked about Niebuhr liked the idea of Marxism, the way it was all set up, but in the reality of Marxism, it was deficient.
All right. I think when it comes to MAGA and fear, I'm trying to go back to the election. It was John McCain versus who? Was it Obama? Yeah. Go back to that period of time. And the Tea Party, what were the Tea Party saying? Didn't the Tea Party try to make us think that everything is a threat? Everything is a threat and we need to defend ourselves against it. And it only got worse until we got to the 2016 election. Now it's like we're being attacked on all sides. I watched Gutfeld for 20 minutes last night, and it's
I don't know this person.
Don't bother, but it's a lesson in ridicule, and the really evil people we need to fear are the socialists and the communists. And these socialists and communists, they're coming through the windows. They're coming to get us. I've spent 50 years in Berkeley. I've met thousands and thousands of people. I don't know a single socialist or communist by name. And if you can't find them in Berkeley, where are they? But if I watch this show, I am overwhelmed with, I need somebody to protect me from the socialists and the communists. And so if that's the mood, I think it has a lot to do with the consolidation of MAGA thinking.
And then I felt like in the last election, both sides are warning about or fearing the
other.
Yeah, the other in terms of democracy. They're out to destroy democracy. That's what both sides said.
That's
about
right.
The
The
other.
Democrats are afraid MAGA is going to destroy democracy. MAGA is afraid that the communists and socialists are going to destroy democracy, and that's kind of where
Do
we
you
are.
find it interesting that one of the things that they bring up now is Democrats we are too soft. We got to be more like the Republicans. We got to attack in such a manner that will be recognized as being right, and that's scary too because we become the enemy unknowingly.
So I wanted to revisit this one. In Peter's step 1, why can an individual be capable of greater moral action than any group? Do you find that persuasive? Or can a community be more moral than its members? Maybe the question isn't being put right, I don't know. I mean, I struggled with that because on the one hand, you know, in step one, you said the individual is capable of greater moral action. So there's more moral action from an individual than a
Yeah.
group. But then you also said groups cannot do this, referring back to the, you know, the individual and universal principles.
Yeah,
Groups can at best perpetuate themselves. Groups cannot subject themselves to a universal principle. But I always think of groups, churches, businesses, they always have their statement of values, their vision statement, their all of those things, and they strive to, you know, meet those values.
I want to say that I think Niebuhr is right. I just don't think he's 100% right. That my experience with groups is he is right that the groups form and they tend to want to self-perpetuate for whatever reason. They want to self-perpetuate even if they have the most noble of goals and objectives. But I don't want to say it's 100% that groups can't do self-sacrificial things. I've not had much experience in Washington, but I did have some experience with the National Institutes of Health. And I have to tell you, there were some wonderful people there, mainly medical doctors, but whose mission in life is the health and well-being of people, and the National Institutes of Health is the institution that helps us get that done. It's a loving group, okay? And they were capable of doing loving things. Or if you think about USAID in Africa, oh yes, you have this paradox. On the one hand, we want to protect people in the Congo and Uganda from Ebola. Now, in order to get it passed by Congress, you have to add, so it doesn't come to America. But the people in the field really want people in Uganda to benefit from these medical, they are loving in character. I mean, let me just say, I just have met them. So I don't want to say to Niebuhr that you're absolutely right, this is an ironclad law, even if it's a propensity. But I think that there are exceptions. And you know, in the ELCA, we have some of the most loving people who are doing social service. And you just have to say, gosh, our church is doing it right. Not 100%, but we do it right, you know, on some occasions. So, I'll stop. Go ahead.
Don't groups require compromise to some degree? Isn't that one of the
Internally.
limiting factors? Whereas an individual can be true to himself or themselves?
Right. I mean, I think when you put it in the terms of self-sacrifice, and you talk about an organization, an institution, a corporation, a church, a congregation, we don't want to self-sacrifice. We want to live forever as a congregation. We don't want to go away. We want Marin Lutheran Church to be on this hillside, or at least somewhere here in Marin.
Until the second coming of Christ.
At least.
Yeah.
At least.
And that, to me, I can see that because businesses are here and their need is to be here forever. And they will make whatever compromise they need to make.
That might
to
be
do that.
a great way to put it, to take it in that sense to the extreme, because you can imagine individuals will have a cause great enough to die for. Parents may, you know, in an extreme situation, sacrifice their lives for their children. But can you think of an organization that will sacrifice itself? So, you know, I mean, the term moral, it just, to me, sometimes seems like just a really big word. But when we said it earlier, you talked about individuals can be altruistic, but a group cannot be expected to act truly altruistically. There is this self-preservation, self-interested way of the group that you can't completely penetrate or
Right.
get past.
And I can see, in your discussion, Ted, about the people you've encountered at the NIH, I think it was, they're wonderful people, and the church are wonderful people. I also think of the leader of the NIH. That person needs to make sure the NIH continues.
Oh, yeah, right.
And the leader of the ELCA, the presiding bishop, I mean, his number one goal, of course, is to follow the gospel, but it's also to continue the church.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel that as a pastor. I want Marin Lutheran Church to continue here. And so I can see how there's in institutions and groups, there's that tension,
I was
I
in,
would say.
Of course, Niebuhr is primarily concerned about nationalism, the nation
Yeah.
as a group, but it applies to all groups. Yeah.
I was in the Korean War in the 25th Infantry Division. And one of the things that interested me is some of the people who were the least I expected would turn out to be heroes, were people who would suddenly get up and run across a field where he could be shot, and quite often was, to rescue another person. He had no inclination to do this. It was automatic.
Yeah.
Someone would say, why did you do that? What made you run out there and get shot at? He said, I never thought about it. I just did it. It
Yeah.
came automatic. And I think that's something maybe could be explored. I have no answer for it. I was not one of those guys that ran across the gunfire.
So I wanted to move on to this question, and this question is less about clarifying and more about how we focus on today and what this says to us today. The hosts, referring to the podcast, call oligarchy the subtle great threat of our moment. And of course, Niebuhr warns in this chapter that economic power always seeks to become political power. Where do you see that today, and what response would be neither naive
San
nor
Jose,
cynical?
California.
Where we were at the Synod Assembly, Sunnyvale, yesterday.
I think the example of San Jose and Silicon Valley is interesting because I think it, certainly speaking for myself, but I think it took a number of us by surprise because, we had a lot of this new wealth, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and they seem like these, Sergey Brin, and they're these creative individuals, either in Seattle or the Bay Area, these really, and it's like, we didn't think they were like, the Koch brothers. We thought they were I thought they were completely different.
Oh, yeah.
And even in 2016, for a while, they were completely different. But at some point, they decided their billions were what mattered.
I think that's a
I
really
mean,
good
I just-
observation, really.
I just feel so naive thinking what I thought back 10 years ago, that somehow this Silicon Valley wealth was going to be different.
Yeah.
I think they were naive too, back then, these tech titans. But now they're gone the other way. So it is obvious today. I mean, it is the oligarchy in our country. I mean, from, the last, presidential election, and then the swearing in and all those folks behind the president. The latest, what was that interview with Jeff Bezos a week or two ago? and
Right.
What he said about the president. That in itself was difficult. But where do you see, what response? Do we have any way to, what response would be neither naive nor cynical? I mean,
Let me be naive and non-cynical.
okay.
I'm still not completely converted to Niebuhr. I'm still an unrepentant child of the light. So I don't like the current rhetoric that we hear with some of our politicians in which the Silicon Valley billionaires are the enemy. Somehow or other, it's those billionaires against the rest of us who are working class. Why? Because I think individually, some of them could be converted to be charitable. Think of Mrs. Bezos, for example, whose name I've forgotten. What's her name?
Mackenzie.
Mackenzie and Melinda Gates. And actually Bill Gates too. Look at the wonderful things that they have done with their wealth. As late as 2023, there was a group which included Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and others who are so afraid of the future of AI that they actually asked the government, Joe Biden at that time, let's put in government guidelines and guardrails for the future. They actually were taking responsibility for our future. It's different now. So maybe I'm naive, but I would hope that some of them, at least as individuals, could transcend their oligarchy in order to see what their social responsibility is. I don't know much about, was it Chris Olah, who was there last Monday in the Vatican? Yeah. I don't know much about him and Anthropic, but Anthropic has really tried to make the US government toe the moral line or the ethical line on lethal automatic weapons, automatic lethal weapon systems, et cetera. So I don't want to give up on those people and say, oh, they're rich, they're nothing more than oligarchs. I don't know. I think you should pay Elon Musk a visit, Tom, and try to persuade. Yeah, pastoral call. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I say get real. I'm kidding.
Yes, of course.
I would counter by saying,
Yeah.
Are you discounting the value of evil, the value of sin too much? I personally agree with Lord Acton. I'm not quite sure who Lord Acton is or was, but he says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolute.
He said that, I think, in the 1930s, and he was referring to what was happening in Germany.
But I think that's true in general. These people, these oligarchs have great
power. It sure
power.
looks that way.
They have temptations.
It sure looks that way.
But I mean, to me, partly it comes down to, the nitty gritty, the definition. Who is an oligarch? Who's not an oligarch? And it's never good to lump everybody together. And, but it's kind of like the convention of conversation. Oh, the oligarchs and all the tech titans of Silicon Valley. But they're all individuals, and they're all have their own motivations, their own, probably goodness as well as sinfulness.
They also have their own community.
Yeah, that influences them.
So, what are those values?
Mm-hmm.
They may also be children of light in that they are protecting all of the people who depend on them. It's a wonderful thing how we can rationalize our behaviors.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you said the word protective. And I'm trying to be nice about that, but
If you weren't nice, what would you say?
Yeah, I saw that a lot back when I was working in the financial world. And I worked for Bank of America, big Wall Street investment bank in area. But our desk out here in San Francisco was quite a bit different. I mean, very politically progressive, liberal folks. But after the financial crisis and Obama was elected, and then a lot of talk in terms of who caused the financial crash and the bankers are evil and just the most. I thought a lot of bankers should have. Personally, I thought a lot of bankers should have gone to jail. But just the most gentle of criticism from Obama, and all of a sudden, I expected to hear it from the hedge fund guys and people in New York about he's demonizing us. But all of a sudden, these people I worked with in San Francisco, who I thought were quite progressive, all of a sudden, now it was affecting them personally. They're being demonized. And all of a sudden, Obama's not the champion anymore. And all of a sudden, the Democrats are demonizing the banking industry. And I'm like, it's not the same people that I worked with 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But it starts to hit personally. People change.
Yeah,
Or the real person comes out, one or the other. I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking the word you just said, Sharon, self-interest.
Yeah.
And community and individuals were always kind of, calculating our self-interest, consciously, unconsciously in relation to the people around us and the institutions we're a part of.
To what degree is, one thing I've been wrestling with, to what degree is being a child of light, being a child of darkness, not an absolute, but something like a spectrum? One moment you're a child of light, and then on certain other issues, you drift over to being a child of darkness. And again, just, these people who you thought were fairly enlightened, one little thing changes and they drift off into some other direction.
Right. I mean, I think of, and I don't know if this is true, but some of the folks who support the president, the MAGA folks, they supported him from way back when, and then just dug their heels in and said, I'm supporting him no matter what he does. I hate the guy, but I'm supporting him no matter what he does. Let's go on to, Niebuhr says we must champion the individual against the community and the community against the individual. In our crisis today, which seems more endangered, individual conscience and rights or our shared common good? How do we defend both? What do you think? What comes to mind?
Looking at the question, which is more endangered? The shared common good. We're all going in our own direction, and everybody's got their own perception of what is good, what is just. We can hold our guns in conscience, but
I want to ask also those at home, Kari or Lois, or Jane, any questions? Kari?
I don't have much to contribute. I'm just really confused and struggling with all this information and all the thoughts. So sorry. I'm just trying my best, but
Thank you for trying.
yeah, I am trying. Anyways, I forget some of the questions that were popping in my mind at the time. So
Okay,
very, very thank you though. It's I'm really enjoying it.
great. Lois?
I was out walking the cat listening so I could listen to it on my my cell phone, and it all sounded very good. I can't say anything special.
Yeah.
Okay. What about here in the room?
I would vote for the common good, being more endangered.
Yeah.
I think there are individuals who are hanging on to their conscience, but I think other people, such as perhaps evangelicals who may have been on a Christ-like track originally, have been torn away. And I think that's a tragedy too, because now we can't understand each other,
Well, we just can't talk to each other about these things. It just gets into a mess if we talk to people about things that feel really strongly. I have several people that are well, that think differently than I do. And it just, it's just hard. It's better not to talk about these things and just work on things that we can work on together.
Yeah.
We need a message about the common good.
Yeah.
Because I think that my relatives in the Midwest would respond if I had a way to present that to them. That this is what we all care about. This is what we all believe.
Yeah, we need a unifying message.
A unifying message. When Washington puts out the dividing message, divisive message.
Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And I've been very disappointed with the mainline churches that they have done nothing about this. They have not stood up against Christian nationalism or anything else, and they're afraid of losing congregants.
Yeah.
And then it's been very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, we are afraid of losing congregants. For sure.
Well, what do we do with, just turn it over to the Holy Spirit and say, just do whatever you want and we'll try to figure out what you're trying to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
Jim?
we need a politician, or, well, we need a figure
Leader.
that everybody would listen to, hopefully, to the message of Obama back in 2004 at the convention. We don't need a red America and a blue America. We need a United States of America. And once upon a time, politicians of both sides, George W. Bush, who I thought was a fool, but he would still rise to the moment and, and say, we are a nation, we need to do this, we need to be this. And show me any speech of Trump's that is only appeals to his base. The idea of appealing to the country as a whole is a completely foreign concept to the entire party. And if you want to play both sidesism, I'm sure you could find examples on the left as well who do the same thing. I don't believe to the same degree, but we need somebody who can somehow speak to the whole and not just to the base.
Trump made one speech in China that was very presidential and very unifying. And then the next speech he made was they're going to obliterate Oman. So that contrast does not help us. But yes, and we had Billy Graham, we had some other people in the past that, brought people together. And I see Tallarico in Texas, but I don't think he's going to be a big national unifying voice. But it would be nice if he could be. But I don't see anybody, real statesmen. Where are the real statesmen and women today?
I think they're afraid because they'll be attacked and their families will be attacked.
Or worse.
Yeah, killed.
I think the gentleman from New York, governor,
Yeah.
Muslim, mayor of New York City.
Oh, yeah.
He's a Muslim,
Yeah.
speaks wonderfully, I think.
Yeah.
So we might want to be paying attention to his rise in the whole communities.
I really agree that what we need and don't have is the kind of spokesperson that Sharon and Jim were talking about. We need that kind of person. But as soon as that person emerges, then we got Gutfeld or Fox News who will just rip this person apart with a kind of criticism that makes the person divisive. Even though they wanted to be unitive, they turn out to be divisive against their own will. That's our circumstance.
Well, I'm starting to feel too depressed.
We don't want to ruin your day.
So let me say this. My feeling is in the last two presidential cycles, opposing Trump, there has not been a Democrat who has spoken with energy and eloquence to counteract the fear, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Particularly in the last election, it was just a mess, absolute mess. Yet, all these elections, going back, to Obama, Obama's elections have been so close.
They have.
So
Oh, it's amazing.
close. It doesn't
Stunning.
take much, folks. It won't take much. There doesn't have to be a perfect candidate. There just has to be a candidate who has some energy, some eloquence, some vitality,
Vitality.
Yeah.
charisma, yes, energy. So anyways, that's my 2 cents to try to bring the level up.
I'm a lot less depressed now after you said that.
Well, then they lie.
to
They
some
lie
degree.
blatantly. They blatantly lie all the time. The Trump side, it's just totally okay to lie, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, lying is a
Blatantly. I mean, it's a big part of their strategy.
Maybe what I said means that I'm with you on this, Ted. I'm a little still an unrepentant idealist.
Well, if you gotta have a fault, that's a good one to have.
When I was in catechism class, I had a huge debate with the pastor about original sin. And in reading this book and this discussion, I have a much better understanding of original sin. So that's been a really important thing for me.
Yes.
I said I refuse to believe that baby is sinful.
Right.
At 12 or 14, whatever I was, that's what I was thinking. So this has been helpful.
So out of this so far has come a wonderful understanding of original sin.
Sometimes I feel we should go back to pragmatism with John Dewey, because with Dewey, what the major function is, will it work? Not is it right or is it wrong? What will make something work? And pragmatism for a long time had a pretty good following, but people on both sides dumped Dewey because they didn't want their lifestyles to change.
So let me end. We need to end, but let me end with this question. Maybe we can get some comments. If not, we can just think about it. Ted Peters confesses, and yet he did again here. He's still an unrepentant child of light, moved by a hymn of universal neighbor love, even while Niebuhr warns him, where is the healthy balance for us between hope and realism? What is one concrete practice that could keep us there this week? Anything come to mind?
Pray for Talarico.
Pray for Talarico. Anyone else?
Well, if you haven't already, you can vote this week.
Yes, definitely. Exactly.
And turn off your TV.
Turn off your TV. Yes.
Did anybody ever watch that whole when Jimmy Carter died, and when everybody stood up and his grandsons stood up and the work they're doing there, and nobody ever mentions all that kind of stuff that they're still doing. And these people are not running for any office. They're just going out there and doing good things.
Mhm.
But you would hope that maybe somebody in his background might say something.
Yeah.
I mean, that funeral was beautiful, and the grandsons were very, very good.
Mhm.
But they haven't been elected, so.
Yeah.
I can call my cousins and tell them how much I love them.
All right. Yes. Good.
And then hang on quick.
Well, thank you all.
Well, thank you,
Ted, thank
Pastor
you.
Tom.
Look forward to your third installment.
All right, coming up.
So we're meeting next week, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st. Yeah, next week is, what is it? Property and community, or
I think it's property. Yeah.
property and community?